Welcome to the Angus Report. I'm Clint Mefford. Join us as we provide you the most comprehensive cattle news and education. This week, we're talking about the market outlook for 2019. We meet some visionary individuals who have made lasting contributions to the cattle feeding industry, and we learn about Mick Colvin's role in establishing the Certified Angus Beef brand. This is the Angus Report. Kevin Good, Vice President of Industry Relations and Analysis at CattleFax, gave us a market outlook for this year at the 2019 Cattle Industry Convention.
As we think about our outlook for 2019, we're pretty optimistic. Even though we've got beef production that's increasing because of expansion in the last 5 years, we see very good trade numbers again this year. And with that being said, per capita supplies of beef is not going to be much different than a year ago. So that's constructive. You know, we see a little bit of a headwinds, got more pork and poultry that we'll have to contend with. So on average, we've got prices pretty flat for beef and live cattle, a little bit softer for feeder cattle and calves because of the larger supplies that we see continuing to build there. You know, as we think about 2019 from a profitability standpoint, we think the feedlot side will have some small positive margins. Stocker operator should have another good year. Cow-calf operator, we think the margins will be positive, but we do think prices will be down anywhere from 5 to 10%. We see a little bit of an input cost increase from interest rates as well as labor. So the cow guy, for the most part, profitable, but narrower margins as we go forward in here. We're starting the year with an El Nino weather pattern. Dr. Art Douglas talked about that in the outlook. That said, the vast majority of the United States is very wet, which is good for growing feed and for cow country. At the same time, we're extremely wet in some of the feed yard regions, particularly Kansas and Nebraska. With that, we've got lighter carcass weights, reduced performance. Tonnage will be down because of that over the next 2 to 3 months and will be price supportive to the market short term.
Good also talked about expected supply and demand trends for 2019.
Total protein production will be up about 1.8 billion pounds, of which about 500 million will be beef. About 1 billion of that will be on the pork side and about 300 million pounds on the poultry side. Increases in both pork and poultry long-term have trended higher, at about a 2% rate as we think about those two proteins combined for the last 20 years. We do think that continues to be a major challenge as we think about prices. Fortunately, we've got a better product and the demand is strong economy. So because of that, we've had wider price spreads between beef, pork, and poultry. This year, we think that will remain the same, but we're a little bit nervous as we go over the next 2 to 3 years. At some point, we'll have an economic downtrend, and when that occurs, beef will have more downside risk than the other two proteins. As we think about total protein supplies, we take it to a per capita basis, and it's about 220 pounds per capita. And that's only going to be about a pound and a half larger than a year ago. Again, beef supplies pretty flat because of good trade. Pork supplies up about 1 pound per capita, and poultry supplies only up a couple tenths of a pound. Poultry has a challenge today because their prices are as low as they've been in the last decade, so they don't have a lot of profitability there. Therefore, their rate of increase this year compared to last year is pretty small. As we think about the long-term trend of more cattle grading choice and prime, this past year 79% of the population was in those two camps. We think that trend continues primarily because of improved genetics. With that said, consumers' appetite for a better product has expanded. We see very good demand for top 2/3 choice and prime. Unfortunately in the prime category, because we produced so much more a year ago, even though demand was up, the spreads were a little bit narrower for a prime product. Now, the top 2/3 choice and choice product spreads, they've held together extremely well.
Visit CattleFax.com to view CattleFax's 2019 Outlook Seminar. Stay with us. We'll be back with more Angus Report after a break. Welcome back to the Angus Report. Retail beef demand continues to rise. Katie Holdner has more with our industry updates.
A report from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association shows that retail beef demand is up 15% from 2012. Producers have made drastic improvements in quality grade, and consumer preference of choice and prime is the driving factor behind the increased demand of beef. Director of Market Intelligence for NCBA, Allison Krebs, says ribeye continues to be the cut of choice for consumers. But the T-bone steak, tenderloin filet, and beef strips have all seen an increase in dollar sales. And the brisket and chuck center roast have both seen increases in pound sales. Cube steak and top sirloin steak have both seen a decrease in popularity, which reaffirms consumer quality preference. Krebs says strong beef demand stems from a good economy, beef quality, and the interest in protein. And the USDA predicts consumers will eat 9% more beef this year in comparison to 2015. Visit beefboard.org to view the full report. A group of major companies and environmental leaders have come together to form a plant-based product council. The groups comprising the council include businesses that produce, distribute, or sell products or packaging from renewable biomass, as well as groups dedicated to environmental and sustainability efforts. The new organization will work to promote the adoption and use of products derived from plant-based materials and guide the global economy toward a more sustainable and responsible consumer product and packaging. Additionally, the Plant-Based Product Council will advocate for programs and policies to encourage the use of renewable materials and feedstocks, reduce carbon emissions, improve water quality and soil health, and reduce solid waste that's destined for landfills. The Council has already launched a database of plant-based products available on the market. Visit pbpc.com to learn more about the Plant-Based Product Council. The American Feed Industry Association, or AFIA, has provided new biosecurity guidance in response to the recent African swine fever outbreaks and other animal diseases. The group plans to research solutions to mitigate the risk of virus transmission through feed and communicate any new information and recommendations to the industry and producer groups. AFIA has been coordinating with representatives from the pork industry, government, and academia to update biosecurity guidelines that are based on new information regarding how viruses can spread throughout the feed manufacturing process. Updates include recommendations for on-site biosecurity programs and include a definition for biosecure. That term currently has no regulatory definition. Visit afia.org to learn more about the new biosecurity guidance.
We check in now on the latest cattle market news with the Cattle Facts Update.
Hello, I'm Troy Bockelman with the Cattle Facts Update. Now that the government has reopened, weekly steer weights are slowly being released. In the most recent USDA release for the last week of 2018, steer carcass weights were 896 pounds. This was down 6 pounds when compared to a year ago. Over the last several months, winter weather has played havoc on feed yards. When measuring from October 1st to the end of January, this has been the second wettest winter since 1984, when measuring the top 6 cattle feeding states. On a state level, Kansas is the wettest, while Nebraska is the second wettest since 1984. Seasonally, weights move lower from a fourth quarter high into the next summer's low. Wet and muddy pen conditions combined with cold weather has affected cattle performance, and as a result, weights have moved lower. When there's abnormal wet and cold weather, weights tend to decrease at a faster than seasonal rate. When measuring the percent change in weights from October 1st, in a seasonal year, weights decrease 4% on average. In weather years, the decrease will average closer to 7%. While weight data has been slow to release due to the government shutdown, estimated weights suggest that the decrease in weights is starting to accelerate. It'll be important to continue to watch carcass weights in the coming months, as this accelerated weight decline can be supportive to fed cattle prices. As weights decrease, packers will need to harvest more cattle to supply the same amount of beef as the seasonal year. For instance, during the April and May time period, should weights decrease 7% versus the 4% in a normal seasonal year, to keep beef supplies steady with a seasonal weight year, an additional 15,000 head per week would need to be harvested. Currently, Cattle Facts expects that cash-fed cattle prices should reach into the lower 130s for a spring high as the result of the increased demand for fed cattle. For the Angus Report and Cattle Facts, I'm Troy Bockelman.
To learn more about Cattle Facts, your leading source for beef industry market information, visit cattlefacts.com. Next on the Angus Report, we head to New Orleans for the Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Stay tuned. "2019 marks the 10-year anniversary of the Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame. It recognizes the people who devote their careers to improving production practices. This year, 4 individuals were honored by the Hall of Fame at a ceremony in New Orleans.
Well, it's really surprising when they called me and told me about it. I always felt there were so many better people than what I was, because I'm just one person in what Superior has done. When we first started, we had big cameras and big recorders, and we traveled a lot, and today you can do it on a cell phone just as easy as far as getting the pictures and showing it. Actually, back in '77 when we started, the older rancher, they jumped right on it because they had went through times that they never had a buyer. The younger ranchers were a little harder to convince, but it only took about a year, maybe 2 years, where they seen what was going on, and it just continued to grow from there. As we were able to ship cattle to most of the major feeders, it was such a great privilege to have them come back and give us data that the cattle had performed so well, they didn't have the death losses. And not just one feedlot, so many of them would come back and share that with us. And I think that was the best thing that ever came out of it, in my opinion. When we started, especially in this state of Louisiana, that there was a lot of conflict as far as the livestock markets not wanting us to be part of it. I had a call one day from our representative in Louisiana, and he said, "Jim, you got to be here in the morning. They're having a meeting at the State House, and they're going to stop us from selling cattle on the video." So I was there in Baton Rouge, and next morning, everybody got up and told why we shouldn't be selling them. I got up and told them what I thought we should do, and they said, "Well, we're going to have to form an investigating committee and come up with what we're going to do. Mr. Odell, would you chair that?" And I think that was one of the best memories I had about coming back here to Louisiana.
We created a special business system at Friona rather than just having a commodity system where you're at the whim of everyday market moves and don't know whether they're coming or going. So this is about creating a business structure that allows you to plan and to significantly impact the quality of the product, the delivery of the product. So it makes total sense to me, and now our company produces about 5% of the fed kill in the U.S. We started after the Beef Advantage project with McDonald's. We started to more thoroughly investigate a relationship with Cargill where we would deliver the raw material for a branded product. It started very slowly. We took a half of a feed yard and put cattle in and showed them what we could do and what that guaranteed delivery meant to their system. And all of a sudden, instead of not knowing what was coming through the door every day at Cargill, they knew exactly what was coming through the door. So they could get months in front and say, "We have this product for you, retailer, coming at this schedule. We can contract that all the way out." Well, the retailer said, "Boy, that's what I've been waiting for. We're going to do that." So once that was in place, then the dominoes start to fall, and you can put pieces on that system. You can add the stocker operator. You can add genetics from the cow-calf operator. You can do a lot of things once that system's in place. As I said on the stand, it took 17 years from stem to stern for us to really understand what we were trying to get to and build a system around it. But I will say that every piece of that puzzle had to be put together. I mean, you can't shortcut this deal in the cattle business. If you're going to vertically align the system, you have to get to every piece. The stocker operator, the cow-calf guy and his genetic quality, the cattle feedlot, the packer, and the retailer food service. You have to have all those people say, this is a differentiated product and we're going to support that in the marketplace.
Bill Foxley was also inducted into the Hall of Fame for his lifetime service at Foxley Cattle Company. And Jesse Ramirez of Brookover Feed Yard in Garden City, Kansas, was honored with the Arturo Armendariz Distinguished Service Award. Up next, we learn about the formation of the world's largest beef brand. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Angus Report. From his early days as an Angus breeder to forming the world's most recognized beef brand, Mick Colvin became the point man for one of the greatest paradigm shifts in the history of the beef industry.
Here we are for the celebration of Mick Colvin's retirement.
I just hope that what I want to say this evening, that I can actually get out, that I can actually say it to you. I just can't help but feel so humbled to have the opportunities to do the things that I've had an opportunity to do. What I want to visit with you about tonight is the reason that Certified Angus Beef is brought into existence. Right there's a lot of the story, folks. We were in a commodity business. When you walk in and look at a meat case, you were looking at a sea of red. No marketing whatsoever. People saying, wait a minute, we need some product that has some consistency that we can market.
Unless we as an industry take a step that can reverse this trend toward lower quality, then the beef industry could face some pretty difficult times in the years ahead.
The first office was a small office in our home.
We were the total staff. We were all the technology from the floor sweepers to the president. But starting Certified Angus Beef, extremely difficult because at that time we were the first organization attempting to brand a beef product.
And an idea that was absolutely not just new, but foreign to the people that he was visiting with. He walked into Packers and sat down and said, here's what we want to do.
He just was going door to door trying to get some way to get some traction for this program.
For the most part, that couldn't be done, but Mick didn't know it couldn't be done.
Many of them said, that sounds like a good idea.
That's a wonderful program.
It sounds like a great idea.
This is a great idea.
After you get it started, come and see me.
But when you get it started, you come back to me.
Come back to me when you get it started.
Let me know when you get it started, will you, Mick?
Turn him down.
I don't know how many doors Mick had slammed in his face. Surprised he still got a nose.
10 months just trying to put a structure together and to find those that would work together. And we've sold the first pound on October 18th of '78.
This is Orion Samuelson with Mick Colvin, who is director of the Certified Angus Beef program.
Yesterday, we launched this program in Columbus, Ohio at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Well, you're doing something that I'm sure a lot of different commodities have tried to do over the years. Do you foresee problems?
We expect some problems as we develop this program because this is a new era.
Starting Certified Angus Beef took an investment from the American Angus Association, an investment in confidence that this thing someday is going to be a success. Well, the American Angus Association was going through some pretty tough times.
When I went to one meeting as chairman, I made my report. The president started the meeting by saying, Johnson, how long are we going to keep paying for this dead horse?
The bottom line is that our registrations were low. We were having a hard time in coming up with the funds to fund Certified Angus Beef.
I went to Fred Johnson and said to Fred, what are we going to do if they actually vote to terminate Certified Angus Beef?
We had board members and we had staff members who were not opposed to CAB, but their concern was how we fund this thing with when our revenue is going down daily.
There was not much question in our mind. We were positioned for growth and for success. So it was a matter of trying to convince that board of directors.
There was a motion to terminate the program.
Many of us were frustrated, and it wouldn't have taken much more problems to throw in the towel.
I've told him, Mick, many times. I said, Mick, if it were easy, anyone can do it.
There was nobody more bullheaded and more determined than Mick Colvin. Yeah, I'm sure he probably was a little abrasive to some people. But I mean, on the other hand, some of those personality traits that he had were a key in getting this thing rolling. Because he was bullheaded and he was persistent and he wouldn't give up and he just kept trying.
The vote was 8-7 for the association to keep funding and keep on with Certified Angus Beef.
At this time, in a little office in West Salem, Ohio, Mick Colvin was causing a stir within the cattle industry. Press releases were being circulated about a successful branded beef product. The demand for Angus feeder calves began to improve, as well as the demand for Angus bulls, Angus seed stock. Indeed, we have enjoyed 16 years of unprecedented growth and popularity.
After finally we jumped that hurdle, and I could see nothing but green for Certified Angus Beef. When I was riding my Harley, my older son and myself, we'd take off from his ranch in Kansas and go north into Montana. We always saw Hereford cattle. Today, most of them are black. So have we, have Certified Angus Beef, turned the industry black? Yes, we have. If we hadn't have been to pursue quality and the industry was wanting to go quantity in their numbers, where would we be today?
Through his efforts through CAB, he has totally changed the way beef is marketed in this country today.
Mick Colvin started this program in 1970 and has, I think, received a tremendous amount of credit for the vision that he developed and stuck with through hard times and good times.
You mentioned when he introduced me that the credit that I should get for the Certified Angus Beef program, I accept very, very little of it. We're pretty proud of those accomplishments and what they've done. The reason for that success is people.
We hired people because of their people skills. Brent Eicher being one, Tracy Erickson. We made the people part of the program.
How does that make you feel when people talk about, truly how great of a leader that you are?
They talk about greatness. It's the young kids that I heard. That's greatness.
I don't believe that I've ever worked with someone or known someone that is as humble and desiring to put other people in the limelight.
I would like to have all of the staff from Certified Angus Beef to stand and let these folks see the folks that really do the work. Come on, all of you. I want you all to stand. Terry Taylor.
It was that kind of humble approach that he took on a regular basis, day in and day out with staff consistently, that really to me was the legacy of Mick Colvin.
Mick, you have multiplied yourself, and that's what each one of us really wants to do.
Because of your character, your honor and dignity, your commitment and resolve and passion, and your humility and grace. And it's these virtues that we believe distinguish you as a truly great man.
Would I consider myself great? No. The whole staff, they're the ones that deserve the credit.
That's a wrap for this week's Angus Report. Tune in next week for industry-leading news and education, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Angus TV, for more highlights from the association. See you next week.